The air above Hackney shifts in peculiar ways. From one vantage point, the city rises in jagged concrete lines, restless and brimming with the energy of markets, cafes, and sirens. From another, the land opens, unexpectedly, to a patchwork of green, where horses graze on a farm that seems to belong to another century. At the boundary between these two worlds, perched quietly above the streets, lies a penthouse apartment that seems less like a residence and more like a meditation, a study in balance, in light, in the art of seeing the familiar anew. For Anna Meredith, an architect and lecturer, this apartment is more than a home. It is both retreat and laboratory, a place where theory folds into practice and where the restless pace of London softens into stillness. When she first walked into the space, she recalls she wasn't certain whether she was entering a residence or a vantage point, a platform designed to observe the rhythm of the city and to remind her that life in London could still breathe. Anna had spent much of her professional life designing for others, shaping public buildings and collective housing projects that spoke to the density and urgency of the city. But this apartment was different. It was her own canvas, though she never imagined it as an act of ownership. Rather, it became a dialogue between her and the city she had both grown weary of and fallen back in love with. She had not planned to move. The search began idly, almost without intention. A late evening of scrolling through property listings, a habit many Londoners know well, revealed the first photographs of the place. High windows, stark shadows falling across wide white walls, and, almost shockingly, the view. A stretch of farmland that seemed to tilt the city backwards, returning it to its origins. It was not perfection, not yet. The apartment, though technically a penthouse, carried the traces of hurried development, impractical layouts, finishes that felt disposable, details that lacked soul. But Anna saw something beyond these flaws. Where others saw awkward proportions, she saw a chance for play. Where others might dismiss the odd contrast of farm and parkland against the city's harder edge, she felt only intrigue. She remembers her first visit vividly. The lift opened onto a hallway lined with doors, nondescript until hers. The agent fumbled with the keys, spoke quickly, almost impatiently. But once inside, Anna tuned out the words. She walked straight to the windows and stood there, not speaking, not moving, watching the way the park's trees shifted in the breeze, how the low sun stretched across the fields, how at the edge of sight the London skyline stood, like a reminder of another life. In that silence, she knew the apartment could become something else entirely. Transformation, she says, is never about erasing what was there before. It is about listening. The apartment had a voice, though it was muted beneath layers of compromise. Her first task was subtraction, to strip away the clutter that suffocated its bones. False partitions were dismantled, unnecessary storage removed, surfaces pared back until only structure and light remained. From there, she began her careful interventions. She replaced the generic flooring with reclaimed oak boards, their grain marked with history, their warmth grounding the otherwise austere geometry. Walls were repainted in tones that shifted subtly with the day's light. Soft grays, muted whites, the pale blush of clay. She wanted the walls to behave like clouds, never fixed, always responding. The kitchen had been little more than a box, closed off and indifferent. Anna broke it open, creating a single flowing space that allowed the living area to stretch towards the view. A long concrete island became the anchor, its weight balancing the airiness of glass and sky. But the most radical gesture was also the simplest. She refused to fill the space with excess. Every piece of furniture, every object, was chosen with care. a low oak table found in a Paris flea market, a set of Bauhaus chairs reupholstered in natural linen, a single ceramic vase from a friend, an artist whose work spoke of earth and imperfection. The apartment did not ask for decoration, it asked for restraint. The challenges were not purely aesthetic. The penthouse's original structure had flaws, particularly in insulation and sound. Anna worked with engineers to reconfigure the systems discreetly, ensuring that comfort did not come at the expense of silence. The rooftop terrace, once barren and overlooked, was transformed with planters of wild grasses and herbs, echoing the farmland below and dissolving the line between interior and exterior. As months of construction passed, the apartment began to reveal itself. Old flaws became softened memories, reminders of what had been overcome. New details, a hand-polished concrete bench by the window, a sliding panel that allowed privacy without division, became part of the apartment's character. It was no longer simply a property. It was a story unfolding in space. What makes the home unique is not merely its design, but its position in the city. Imagination. London is rarely thought of in terms of fields and parklands. It is a city defined by its density, its relentless vertical climb. Yet here, at this threshold, one can stand at the window and see horses grazing, hear birdsong before traffic, watch fog roll across open grass before dissolving into the hum of Hackney streets. Anna speaks of the apartment as a lens. It reframes her perception of place, reminding her that urban life does not have to mean severance from nature. The duality of her view, the farm stretching one way, the skyline the other, mirrors the duality of her own existence as both designer and dweller, thinker and maker. There is also a quiet defiance in the space. In a city often driven by spectacle and novelty, the apartment insists on humility. It does not shout its presence, it whispers. Its beauty lies not in lavish display, but in the discipline of careful choices, in the way light bends across surfaces, in the silence between objects. Visitors often remark that it feels like a retreat, though it is no more than a few streets from one of London's busiest thoroughfares. But Anna resists the idea of retreat. For her, the apartment is not an escape from the city, but a way of seeing the city differently. Softer, slower, through the rhythm of leaves, shadows, and changing skies. Culturally, the apartment is also a conversation with Hackney itself. A borough layered with histories of industry, migration, art, and reinvention. The farm visible from her terrace is one of the few surviving city farms in London, a reminder of the area's rural past, and a community space that continues to anchor local identity. The juxtaposition of her design-led interior with this landscape is not ironic but intentional, a recognition that the city is not homogeneous, that beauty lies in its contradictions. Anna often describes her home not as a finished project, but as an ongoing experiment. She moves furniture, shifts the use of spaces, edits constantly. For her, architecture is never static. It lives, breathes, and adapts. This restlessness is not dissatisfaction. It is curiosity. And so the penthouse remains suspended, between city and countryside, between past and future, between silence and sound. A place where the view itself becomes architecture, and where every day begins not with noise, but with the slow unfolding of light across the land.